Burkina Faso produced about 66.8 tons of gold, which is approximately 67 tons of gold in 2021. In 2023, they produced over 50 tons of gold. And in 2024, they produced about 47.7 tons of gold.
What if someone told you that one of the world's poorest nations just pulled off $1 billion turnaround without flashy press conferences or global applause? No international bailouts, no IMF hand-holding, just grit, strategy, and the power of gold. This is the story of Burkina Faso in 2025. Right now, gold prices are climbing at a blistering pace, up 27% already this year, and we're only halfway through. Analysts are whispering that by December, we could see gold hitting $120,000 per kilo. That's a fortune buried under African soil. But here's the twist. Unlike in decades past, when that wealth flowed straight into foreign vaults, this time, Burkina Faso is making sure it stays home. And the man behind this quiet revolution? Captain Ibrahim Traoré, just 36 years old and already rewriting the economic playbook. Since June, his administration has executed a sweep of the nation's gold mining industry that would make any resource minister in Paris or London sweat. They've taken over 5 mining companies in a matter of weeks. 2 of those companies, Wakan Gold SA and Samafu Bongo SA, previously had foreign stakeholders owning a crushing 90% of each. Burkina Faso held only scraps, just 10%. Today, that's flipped. Those mines are now fully state-owned. The other 3 companies, still at the exploration stage, have seen their licenses revoked and transferred to Burkina Faso outright. This isn't just about paperwork. It's about decades of exploitation finally getting the boot. Under old regimes, mining deals were lopsided at best. Foreign companies dug, shipped, and sold gold by the ton, while locals saw little beyond dusty roads and temporary labor. Profits vanished overseas, taxes were quietly dodged, and corruption was just part of the operating cost. But Traoré didn't inherit that system to maintain it. He's dismantling it piece by piece. When he came to power, the mining sector was murky and dominated by outsiders. Now, with new rules, foreign firms must pay proper taxes on exports, invest directly into the country, and perhaps most importantly, share ownership. Local cooperatives are finally getting rights to mine legally. Middlemen who skimmed profits through shady deals are being shown the door. Even small communities near the mines are seeing direct benefits. It's already paying off. In just 3 months, Burkina Faso has earned an astonishing $1.1 billion in gold revenue. That's not some accounting trick or speculative windfall. It's the result of firm policies that kept wealth from bleeding out through loopholes. As international headlines fixated elsewhere, Traoré and his team were quietly laying the groundwork for a national comeback. While many Western analysts underestimated them, thinking of Burkina Faso as yet another unstable African state, they missed what was brewing. This transformation is more than a financial coup. It's a shift in power. For the first time in living memory, Burkina Faso is using its gold as leverage, not collateral for loans, but actual capital to rebuild the nation on its own terms. Roads, electricity projects, local schools, they're all seeing direct investment from this gold surge. Meanwhile, critics in foreign think tanks clutch at warnings about authoritarianism and transparency, but on the ground, the people are watching clinics open and roads get paved. Traoré's approach has even sparked comparisons to Thomas Sankara, the legendary Burkinabé leader, who in the 1980s tried to drive out neo-colonial influence and keep Burkina Faso's wealth for its own citizens. But unlike Sankara's era, cut short by assassination, this moment has the muscle of modern technology and global gold demand behind it. The world needs what lies under Burkina Faso's red earth, and Traoré knows it. He's also no stranger to risk. There have been more than 20 attempts on his life since taking office. Powerful interests inside and outside the country don't like losing their grip. But so far, he's dodged every bullet, literally and politically, and pushed even harder. That's left Western observers scrambling to adjust their forecasts. How could a small, landlocked nation with a history of coups suddenly pull in over $1 billion from its own soil in just a quarter? Part of the answer lies in a brutal audit Traoré ordered early on. His administration went mine by mine, contract by contract, unearthing decades of theft and ghost operations, scale fraud, unregistered exports, uncollected royalties. It was all dragged into daylight. Instead of sweeping it under the rug, he fired corrupt officials, blacklisted foreign companies that couldn't play by the new rules, and even jailed high-profile smugglers. He then launched a public portal where citizens can see live data on gold production and exports. Every ounce is tracked, every franc accounted for. In a region where opacity has long been the norm, it's a revolutionary act, and it's had ripple effects. Foreign mining giants that once threw money at middlemen to smooth over labor or tax problems now face a stark choice: comply with tough new rules or pack up. Many chose to pack. That's fine by Traoré. Local cooperatives are stepping into the vacuum, and regional governments are getting a direct slice of gold profits to fund community projects. The result? You don't just see this new wealth in government coffers. You see it in schools getting their first computers, in clinics with electric generators that keep maternity wards running through the night, in villages with water pumps that finally mean kids don't have to walk miles just to fill a bucket. This is gold turned into dignity, not stashed away in Swiss bank accounts. And this is only part of the story. In part 2, we'll look deeper at how Traoré is systematically cutting out the middlemen who for centuries made fortunes off Africa's resources. From national gold registries to new local ownership models, Burkina Faso is proving that the old ways of doing business are finished. So stay tuned, because this isn't just Burkina Faso's story. It's a blueprint that could change Africa's future. If there's one word that explains why Africa's wealth keeps slipping through its fingers, it's middlemen. For decades, brokers, foreign agents, slick consultants, and smugglers have carved out fortunes by standing between Africa and its own resources. They know how to game the paperwork, grease palms, fudge shipping weights, and quietly redirect profits into offshore accounts. In Burkina Faso, that used to be the norm. Not anymore. One of the most radical shifts under Ibrahim Traoré has been a direct assault on these parasitic networks. His government has created what many call Africa's toughest gold oversight regime. It starts with a national gold registry. Every mine, every gram, every shipment now logged in a central system. No more handshake deals in dimly lit offices. No more cargo planes sneaking off with undocumented bullion. Every bar is tagged, tracked, taxed, and reported. This crackdown isn't just bureaucratic, it's cultural. For years, miners and local officials were conditioned to look the other way, to accept that a little something on the side was how business got done. That's gone. Today, inspectors show up unannounced. Weigh stations use calibrated digital scales that feed data straight into government servers. Even export companies must prove their paperwork lines up, down to the last ounce, or risk losing their licenses on the spot. And it's working. That's why the jump from near zero to $1.1 billion in gold revenue happened so quickly. Once the leaks were sealed, the money poured in like it always should have. It's almost embarrassing how simple it sounds. Stop the theft, and suddenly there's wealth. But for Burkina Faso, this isn't just about money, it's about dignity. Traoré also made sure the gold revolution didn't just enrich the capital. Unlike old regimes where funds vanished into bureaucratic mazes or elite pockets, his administration set up a straightforward rule. Local governments get a fixed share of mining proceeds deposited straight into their accounts. That means small towns near mining zones now have dedicated budgets to pave roads, build schools, or install clean water systems without having to beg the capital or foreign NGOs. In village after village, you see new water pumps replacing women's long daily walks to rivers. Rural clinics now have solar panels powering refrigerators for vaccines. Kids in places like Kaya or Gawa are learning on tablets instead of battered chalkboards. That's not charity. It's their own country's wealth finally coming home. And it goes deeper. Traoré launched what he calls the mine-to-market equity scheme. Communities closest to gold operations actually get paid dividends, like shareholders. When a local cooperative strikes a rich vein, the village literally gets a cut. For the first time, mining doesn't just mean strangers tearing up the earth. It means payday for families who've lived on that land for generations. Critics in Western capitals scoff and label it populism. Traoré calls it fairness, and ordinary Burkinabés just call it life-changing. After years of watching gold-laden trucks drive out while their schools crumbled, this is personal. It's also strategic. Traoré isn't content to just dig up gold and sell it raw. That's the trap so many resource-rich countries fall into, exporting unprocessed minerals cheap, only to buy back finished products at huge markups. So now Burkina Faso is moving to control more of the value chain. Plans are already underway for the country's first large-scale gold refinery. Once it's built, Burkina will refine its own gold, set higher prices, and keep more profit onshore. Meanwhile, local businesses are springing up to support this new ecosystem, everything from equipment maintenance firms to jewelry makers. Young people who might have dreamed of scraping together money for a risky trip to Europe are instead learning trades tied to mining, engineering, and processing. It's not just about pulling wealth from the ground. It's about building the skills and industries that will outlast the gold itself. And Traoré is doubling down. His government is talking with Mali and Niger about forming a regional gold bloc. The idea is simple but groundbreaking. Pool gold reserves, create a shared monetary backbone, and cut dependence on foreign currencies like the CFA franc that for decades tied West African economies to old colonial masters. If successful, it could reshape how trade works across the region, insulating these countries from currency shocks and strengthening their hand in global markets. Of course, all of this rattles powerful cages. Foreign firms used to sweetheart deals aren't happy. Development banks used to writing policy conditions tied to loans see a rising competitor. Even within Burkina, entrenched interests that profited off corruption are feeling squeezed. That's partly why Traoré survived so many assassination attempts. More than 20 by some counts. Each one a grim reminder that shaking up the old order comes with real danger. But it's also a measure of just how much is at stake. This isn't a theoretical battle over economic models. It's a live contest over who controls Africa's future. Outsiders who've long extracted value, or local leaders willing to take risks so that wealth finally stays put. Walk through markets in Ouagadougou today, and you'll hear it in conversations. Shopkeepers discuss gold earnings like city traders. Parents swap stories about new school programs funded by mining revenue. Young graduates look to local mining tech institutes with real hope instead of seeing migration as their only option. For decades, Western narratives painted Burkina Faso as little more than a cautionary tale: coups, poverty, insecurity. But now, with $1.1 billion in fresh gold revenue and more coming, that narrative is cracking. A new one is being written by Burkinabés themselves, and it doesn't end here. In Part 3, we'll explore how this gold windfall is fueling an even deeper revolution, investing in youth, building tech hubs, and turning what was once seen as a resource curse into a launchpad for national pride and long-term independence. So stick around, because what's unfolding in Burkina Faso right now isn't just historic. It's a challenge to how the world has always done business with Africa. For generations, Africa's story with gold was painfully predictable. Dig it up, ship it out, watch others grow rich, while local communities were left with deep pits and empty promises. Burkina Faso is flipping that script, and nowhere is the change clearer than in how the country is investing in its youth. Under Ibrahim Traoré, the nation's $1.1 billion gold windfall isn't just being banked or spent on flashy monuments in the capital. It's being transformed into opportunity, especially for young people who once saw their futures limited to subsistence farming or dangerous migration routes. One of the most ambitious new programs is called Gold to Growth. It channels a fixed slice of national gold revenue straight into youth-focused initiatives, from tech incubators to modern farming collectives. Imagine that. Gold that doesn't just glitter, but actually seeds new businesses, funds small manufacturing outfits, and underwrites research into renewable energy. All run by young Burkinabés, many of whom are the first in their families to finish secondary school. There's also a surge in specialized education. Mining tech programs, geology schools, environmental management courses, all heavily subsidized by gold profits. Across campuses in Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso, classrooms that were once half empty are now full, buzzing with students learning how to run laser spectrometers or build AI models that optimize mining safety. And beyond mining itself, there's a push into new fields. The same revenues are backing startup hubs where young entrepreneurs experiment with e-commerce platforms and clean energy solutions. Critics overseas dismiss this as naive, worried that Burkina Faso is putting all its eggs in one basket. But the reality is, Traoré's plan is about using gold as a springboard, not to mine forever, but to build a diversified economy while the boom lasts. The gold will eventually run dry, as all mines do. But by then, if the vision holds, Burkina Faso will have a new generation of engineers, software developers, and industrial planners who can drive the next phase of growth. Meanwhile, Traoré's administration has made it mandatory for foreign and local mining companies to invest directly in local talent. Licenses now come with clauses requiring on-the-job training programs, apprenticeships, and funding for community learning centers. In mining towns like Houndé or Yako, it's common now to see teenagers learning how to operate heavy machinery or run geological surveys, skills that command good pay and respect. And there's a psychological shift underway. Kids growing up in dusty villages that once felt bypassed by modernity now see roads being paved, clinics getting electricity, schools stocked with laptops, all paid for by gold their uncles and aunts are pulling from the ground. They're not just hearing about national wealth on the radio, they're living it. That builds pride. It plants the idea that maybe you don't have to risk drowning in the Mediterranean or getting trapped in a European underworld just to build a life. Traoré himself has been blunt about this. In speeches, he tells young people that Burkina Faso's future is literally in their hands, and that the gold boom is meant to give them tools to carve out a destiny no longer chained to Paris, Washington, or Beijing. He doesn't hide that this terrifies outsiders. If Burkina can pull it off, why not Mali? Why not Guinea or Niger? A gold-backed regional trade zone, less dependent on foreign currencies, is already being quietly mapped out. None of this means the challenges are over. Security threats still loom. Old power networks displaced by Traoré's reforms haven't simply vanished. Some are regrouping. International financial institutions keep looking for leverage to pull the country back into the old cycle of dependency. But right now, Burkina Faso stands as a powerful counter-narrative to decades of Western forecasts that only saw failed state written across its borders. Back in Europe and the US, analysts who once wrote off the country are being forced to reconsider. They see a nation that was supposed to be permanently begging for aid, suddenly using its own resources to build roads, power hospitals, educate its youth, and pay off its own bills. That's not just inconvenient, it's a direct threat to the global financial systems that have long thrived on Africa's vulnerabilities. On the streets of Ouagadougou, there's a saying gaining popularity: better gold in our hands than promises in theirs. People here understand exactly what's at stake. The $1.1 billion in fresh gold revenue isn't just about shiny bars stacked in a vault. It's about clean water, safe deliveries in lit maternity wards, school scholarships, and the quiet dignity of knowing your country's riches are finally working for you. This is also why Ibrahim Traoré continues to be both celebrated and targeted. More than 20 assassination attempts and counting, because reshaping a nation's destiny away from foreign grip lines someone's pockets less. But the young president isn't backing down. If anything, the attempted hits seem to have hardened his resolve. And so the story of Burkina Faso rolls forward. From dusty gold fields to bustling labs and classrooms, from the shadow of dependency to a future cautiously being built by local hands. The world is watching, some with hope, others with fear. Either way, the old script has been thrown out. Because in just 3 months, this country proved that Africa's wealth doesn't have to be a curse or a handout waiting for international charity. It can be a foundation for real sovereignty if leaders dare to seize it and if people dare to hold them accountable. So what do you think? Is Burkina Faso rewriting the rules of African wealth and independence? Or is this gold boom just another chapter waiting to be hijacked by old forces? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you want to see more stories that break stereotypes. And don't forget to subscribe so you stay updated on how this gold-powered revolution continues to unfold, not just in Burkina Faso, but across a continent that's waking up to its own strength.